Welcome to the Thrasher's Wheat Radio Hour, where the feedback is back.
I come down from the misty mountain.
Every week we scour the human highway to bring you the best Neil Young news and reviews, rumors and musings, plus rare unreleased tracks and live shows that will keep you rocking in the free world.
It's all one song.
The Thrasher's Wheat Radio Hour is presented by WBKM.org in the heart of Burlington, Vermont.
Well, hello once again, video and radio fans around the world. It's time for another episode of Thrasher's Wheat Video Radio Hour. Tony over here in the WBKM radio studio in Burlington, Vermont. And over that way, hey, look, I pointed the right way this time. Thrasher's Wheat.
Hey, Tony, how you doing?
I'm doing good. We're back on the road again. Good to see you.
It's been a little while, but we're back here.
It is.
Another episode,
and we're going to have a guest today, which is going to be really exciting. And
yes, we're very excited about having a guest here, but I think we want to get to some news before we get to our guest.
Yeah, our guest is going to be from far away and is waiting in the waiting room kindly and patiently. But we do want to point out that this show is certainly out of respect and love for the 50 years that she played piano alongside the one and only Willie Nelson. We lost Bobby Nelson, aged 91, just 2 days ago. And I am sure that the Nelson family is grieving heavily. What's it like to lose a sister that has been with you in your life so actively for so long? Bobby, we loved you. We still love you. We thank you for all those farm aides that we got to see you with Willie and the family. And to Willie, Lucas, Nelson, and all the family, Nelson family, we wish you well, and we dedicate this show today to you, Bobby Nelson.
A nice tribute there, Tony. Definitely a loss for the Nelson family and the music community. Had the pleasure of seeing her, all these farm aides over all the years, and really an honor and a joy to have been in the spirit of Bobby and the Nelson family music.
Yeah, leaving is always hard, and we're thankful that we had her. On we go to this thing that we do now, and so are we ready to bring in our lovely guest, do you think, or do you want to introduce them?
Yes, let's bring in our guest from far away. We're gonna invite Davey from Scotland on here. So why don't we bring him in from the waiting room, Tony?
Magical button here, and very free and easy, and you'll see why. Here he is, Davey. He's coming in.
Davey, we're bringing you in here, and we see you and we hear you. Can we hear you? Good morning.
I hope so. Can you hear me?
And yes, we can hear you.
We can hear
you. This is Glasgow calling all the ships at sea.
All right, very nice. It's good to see you, Davey, and we're really pleased and happy to have you here on Thrasher's Wheat Radio and WBKM. And just to tell our audience, everyone out there, if you haven't seen or met Davey before, we've had him on Thrasher's Wheat blog with some of his unboxing videos last year, this year. He's done a number of them, but we've featured him doing an unboxing video of Barn, taking us through all of the memorabilia associated with that recent Crazy Horse Neil Young album. And then more recently, he did an unboxing video on the Letter Home album that was recorded there at Jack White Studios and all the paraphernalia that came from that. So we'll go ahead and link up to those unboxing videos on Thrasher's Wheat. But today, Davey, we'd like to meet you and see and hear more about your collection, and then we're gonna get into a couple of Neil Young, Crosby, Stills, Nash Young albums. So please, Davey, tell us what you're all about.
Well, that's an interesting question. What I'm about, about 6 foot tall, I believe. But no, I'm from Glasgow, Scotland. So across the Atlantic, as the accent may give away. I am 36 years old. I worked in a record store for 3 years in the mid 2000s. And have been a Neil Young fan, and indeed, as you can see from the wooden ships Crosby, Stills and Nash shirt, a CSN fan for a very long time as well. So I'd say for maybe time flies when you're having fun, 20 odd years. So I think my first Neil album as a new fan was Greendale, which is still a favourite of mine in all its different variations. So Return to Greendale was a great pleasure for me recently. In fact, I'll show you a couple of things behind me. I've put a little setup while we're, just to have something to... So there's the box of Return to Greendale over here with Young Shakespeare. There's the DVD of Greendale's over here, and the Letter Home. Over there we have the aforementioned barn box, and way down in the rust bucket. Archives Volume 1 is the kind of centerpiece with the CSNY DVD box and the kind of side there. So yeah, that's just a small representation, but of Neil. So as you can see from Archives Volume 1 right up to Barn, it's all Neil to me. I've not got, I'm not one of the, I'll stick to the 70s era, or I'm not going to do anything outside of I don't know, Everybody's Rocking or something. But that's kind of my story with Neil.
Beautiful story, beautiful, man. And you've gotten the chance to see Neil in or near Scotland, anywhere at least, with Crazy Horse.
Yes.
All the time.
So I'm most recently with Promise of the Real, which I thought was just a fantastic combination for Neil. I wasn't crazy about the album they made just prior, but I thought live they were just perfect in being able to replicate both Stray Gators material and Crazy Horse material. I mean, obviously, it's not quite as raw as Horse in the Rust Bucket tour, but it certainly came close to that. I'm not quite sure I needed a 35-minute version of Love and Only Love, but got it nonetheless. It was a fantastic show, and it was from the same tour that recently we've had the Amsterdam tour released from on Neil Young Archives, the longest show ever. That was manna from heaven for so many of us. Just to this is this is longer than Springsteen dreams of. So.
well, just to interject here, Tony, we've had the pleasure of seeing Crazy Horse in Amsterdam.
The Ziggo, right? The Ziggo
at
Dome.
The Ziggy Dome. We didn't catch the 76 tour, but we did catch the 2013 Crazy Horse tour there, and we I told Tony before we left, I said, this might be the last time we ever get to see Neil Young and Crazy Horse in Europe. And certainly the Poncho version we managed to catch it before they pulled the plug on Poncho on that tour. Yeah, anyway, not to digress. So Davey, we want to highlight a couple of albums here today.
Yeah. So would as you mentioned, you were kind enough, Thrasher, to put me on the blog for my unboxings and things, and we just communicated thereafter, very politely and back and forth, and it went well, and you invited me to participate on the show, and we threw back ideas, and obviously with some of it being audio, some people will only listen to it rather than watch. I didn't want to do anything that was too visual, so I thought it would be apropos to talk about an album, or album tangential material. So ostensibly, "Living with War" is what we're looking at as the album, but I think just as equally we're looking at, if not more so, the documentary CSNY, Deja Vu, which interestingly as well is a Neil Young film, which is quite unusual, isn't it? Not to see I was going to say Bernard shake it, but I know it's always Bernard when Americans say it. So Neil took it so seriously that it was a Neil Young film rather than Bernard Shaky. And then, of course, we have the live album of that material, because for those that don't know, this is not a concert film, the Deja Vu live DVD. So it's certainly a wonderful documentary, but it's not a concert film. There's very few clips of over about 30 seconds of the band. But this, the Deja Vu live CD, does feature full-length songs, a lot of which are reprises from Living with War. And then in between those, we have an even more raw version of Living with War, which is Living with War in the Beginning, which is the day one mixes, I guess we'd say, for the album. So it's not there's no choir, there's no trumpet on there. It's the most raw that the album can be, and it was already quite a raw album, having been written and recorded and released within about 5 weeks or so, and quite visionary as well. And that Neil, in 2008, Radiohead had a lot of publicity for releasing an album where you could pay as little as you wanted and download it for a penny if you wanted. Neil gave this album away for free on the internet. People don't really remember that as being such a pioneering move at the time, but the message was so important that he literally on the concert film documentary says he doesn't care if people pirate it or download it. The message is more important than his income for it. So he put the tracks up himself. So
that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. I'd kind of forgotten it's been 10, 15 years or however long it's been. And not to, I guess, leap too much to the current situation, say with the whole Spotify deal, but you're right, Davey, this does show this long running streak in Neil Young in terms of doing things in the moment, like giving away an album free to download off of the internet that had never been done before, and it was lightning in a bottle. He recorded it really quickly, put it out really quickly. It was kind of like a fast forward to the whole Ohio with recording of Ohio and that whole kind of thing, right? Remember how Ohio came out right away, Tony?
Yeah.
You remember that, right, Tony?
Yeah, I was going to mention that if you didn't, and of course, we're connected here mentally, I guess. But that heritage goes all the way back to an album climbing the charts, which is Deja Vu, the first one, SNY, and this tragedy at Kent State University in Ohio happens, and there's the article, and Crosby challenges Neil to do something about it. And Neil takes a walk and comes back, and Graham gets on the phone and calls Amit and says, "We need the studio tonight." And then the record company puts out something that really gets in the way of the success of CSNY's up and rising release, because the moment was more important than the sales of the album. Now, that was a company that used to think like that. Nowadays, companies don't think like that, but it is still in the souls of at least a few artists to do things like that. And certainly with Living with War and Deja Vu Live, Neil did it, and CSN, of course, gladly went along with that. That's the kind of people we're talking about.
Yeah, Tony, I think a good point here. And Davey, this whole loop that we're trying to cover here, this long running history of CSNY NY,
Mhm.
and their anti-war statement. This goes back almost, to the Buffalo Springfield, for what it's worth, and
Mhm.
that in the Vietnam War and through the Iraq War, here to 2022, we are clearly still living with war. And I don't know about you guys, but I've had enough. I know Neil's had enough, I think, but back to living with war. I think, Davey, what you mentioned a moment ago, I think this is very interesting. The two versions of living with war. Now we have at least three different versions of deja vu. This is all, we talk about, it's all one song. The song remains the same. The cycle, the handing of the torch. I mean, I would hope, for our listeners, viewers out there, that's, I think, what Thrasher's Wheat's about. That's what WBKM's about. I think that's a lot of what us sort of legacy music fans are about, is trying to take the music of our generation and hand it off to the next one.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I think there's certainly an aspect of the contrarian in calling it deja vu live, because very recently, for example, Donald Fagen has just released The Nightfly Live, and that's just him performing the Nightfly album in its entirety. We've seen that with legacy bands for the last 20 years. If they can't sell concerts based on their new music, they will go out and tour the classics. So, calling it Deja Vu Live without turning over, I think one could reasonably expect that you're going to get a classic album played in its entirety. And then when you turn it over, it's essentially Living with War, but supplemented with other CSMY songs that fit the theme. And there is a scene in the documentary in Deja Vu, where they talk about how the initial idea was to try and throw in a few hits just to make sure that everybody had something. But Neil said it just didn't work. You can't go from the strong message to Marrakesh Express, or even to something a bit more maudlin like or Delta or something, a favorite Crosby song of mine. So what they did was they went through the catalogue and depict stuff like Military Madness from that was from Songs for Beginners, wasn't it? From Graham's first solo record. And Wooden Ships, of course, again repping the t-shirt, Wooden Ships in the Water. Very free and easy, which again is tribalism. I mean, it may not be explicitly about war itself, but certainly about tribalism and sides coming together to find common ground. For what it's worth, as was mentioned a few minutes ago, and what are their names, which was a big reinvention that was turned into a kind of tribal war chant, almost the way that they were singing it from the stage with no instrumentation, and they had the crowd singing along back to them. It's quite a remarkable scene in the film to see that. But I think the most touching might be the second last track. It's Teach Your Children. So I think the real message that, sadly, I mean, this being 16 years ago, seems to be an eternal message is, we're not just singing this for 2006 as was. It's a message that needs to be passed on. And as was said there, it wasn't passed on from Vietnam. It wasn't passed on from the Falklands in this country, or it wasn't passed on certainly from Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, that's only recently that we've had the departures from Afghanistan. And now we're seeing the situation envelop Ukraine. So as we see, living with war seems to be perennial, which again, in the concert film, someone does, I think it's Graham Nash makes the point, we maybe can't change the world, but perhaps we can tidy up the neighborhood, and if everybody does the same, maybe we'll make a little bit of a difference, which ultimately is perhaps a more realistic way of looking at it after all those years.
Very well said, Davey. Very well. So Thrasher, set us up here. We're gonna see a little something here that we're gonna share with the Thrasher's Wheat audience. Tell us about it, huh?
Yeah. Thanks, Tony, and yeah, Davey. What Tony said there about about our, tidying up the neighborhood here. And I guess this is our little part of trying to teach our children well, and maybe leave the place a little tidier than the way we found it. Certainly hope so. But yeah, Davey, we did talk a little bit about, what we wanted to feature here. I can, add, some perspective to it, but why don't you go first here in terms of this family song that we want to show?
There are more of the time songs on the album, such as, Impeach the President and whatnot, and Shock and Awe, which was obviously a very de rigueur phrase from the president at the time. But Families, to me, stands out as one of the more enduring, because it's always the families who are touched by wars. It's they're the ones who ultimately do have to live with the consequences. Very short lyrics. I mean, first verse is, when you try to bring our spirit home, when you celebrate our lives in a way that's right for our children and families. So, again, going back to children, when you write your songs about us, what you try to do is justice, because we want to be just like you and your families. I won't recite the whole thing, it's probably copyrighted. But I think, again, it goes back to what we were saying there about teach your children, doesn't it? It's about essentially finding the humanity, and trying to just say there are families who have to deal with living with war, and the people over there just want to return to their families, and find the peace that perhaps they've been manipulated into thinking there's a way to find it through shelling and bombing and things. And that's not the case. So it's a personal song about a very non-personal thing, which of course is war.
That song in particular, he wrote it for me. It got streamed out on the internet, and I heard it and I cried. I heard it again and I cried again, and then I emailed a couple of friends of mine that they needed to pay attention to it.
When you try to bring our spirit home, won't you celebrate our lives in a way that's right for our children and family?
I made a movie when Neil's new record came out, Living with War. Immediately I noticed one of the songs was about, called Families, and it was about people, soldiers and soldiers who don't come home. So I knew ahead of time, even before I heard the song, that the lyrics were going to be important to me because my father was killed in Vietnam. It's a very poignant song about, it's really from the soldier's point of view, about not coming home. And it's about his thoughts about what he wants for his family and how he wants his family to be treated and what he thinks about for his family and coming back home again. And that's pretty close to how you worry and you feel, and you feel sadness about your parents or anybody who doesn't come home from the war.
Totally unbelievable. I mean, meeting that fellow was really a great thing. That gives me faith that we're communicating, we're getting through, and that this is the right thing to do. That's, people like that are what make it worth it for me.
Yeah, Families. Yeah, good recommendation there, Davey. I feel very, very strongly about this particular song, Families, as well. And I do have a small personal connection to this, as well as all of the Rusties out there. This video, Families, came about as a result of a Rusty by the name of Bo Alexander. I met Bo Alexander at a Bridge concert probably in about 2012 and had a conversation with him. But as you can see, it's an enormously powerful video. And the short backstory on this was that when that album dropped, Living with War, and those files were only available on the internet, like, a couple of days after the album was released, as such as it was before it became a physical album at all. Bo Alexander, because his father served in Vietnam and unfortunately was killed in action in Vietnam, he heard that song and it just, tore him apart. And he ended up producing a video for the song for his own personal use of pictures of his family and his father and his mother and sister. And it was on Rust. And, everyone said, "Oh, you've got to send this to Neil. Neil has to see this." And so Bo got the file to Neil. Neil saw it, was blown away just like everybody else, and said, "We have to make this an official video." And then when you're watching that Deja Vu film and they play the video while they play the song up on the screen, and the camera pans from the stage to Bo, and he's just bawling, just tears just streaming down his face. I mean, one of the most powerful moments in cinema. And I say that, in all sincerity.
Had to be very powerful to relive that and to recognize that you had just delivered something that really was personal. It wasn't meant to go anywhere, but you've delivered it now to who knows how many thousands of people in the future will see that and will have their own connection, their own touching and terribly sad memories attached to it. Very powerful stuff.
And I think it's what you said there is something that is echoed in one of the pull quotes on the DVD itself. It says, "One of the finest music documentaries in recent memory," down the bottom, and that's from Time Out magazine. And the back from the Sydney Morning Herald, "Inspiring, made me glad cinema has been invented," which, again, you can say, is that a bit hyperbolic? But when you see Bo's tears, when you see the lady who's lost her son, when you see the amputee who's now running for, I don't know if it was Congress or just a local district, but when you see these people and how war has affected them, it really puts into perspective how churlish some of the people who just took the lyrics of let's impeach the president and walked out, and they're on the documentary as well, doesn't shy away from that kind of stuff. But I think a few of them, if they'd have listened to that part of it and concentrated more on, wait a minute, we're talking about real people here. I think George Bush or whoever you're talking about, we're not fighting battles from 15 years ago with presidents. But whichever world leader you're talking about, they can take stuff like that in the chin. But when you see the personal, when you see the tears, when you see memories of Bo's father, and you see these people who've lost limbs for wars they now realize they shouldn't have been sent to in the first place, and things, it really brings it home, the power of cinema. And Neil was asked in the documentary, would he prefer the music or the film to last, and Neil says the film. Which is quite interesting for a musician. So he feels that's more of a legacy than his own music, which again comes to maybe why he's given it away for nothing at the time, although the CD wasn't, well, my copy was because I worked in a record store. But Neil had a sense that it was a greater project than him, greater project than his ego. It was about other people, and the film represents that, and that is the power of cinema that you perhaps can't quite capture on disc, because you're always going to be Neil Young singing about someone else, or Crosby, Stills and Nash singing about somebody else. You're not going to be that other person. So for Bo or whoever to be able to make their own art using someone else's art, yeah, that's truly inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Davey, good points there. Hey, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned a quote on the box there for the Deja Vu documentary. I didn't quite catch that. Can you read that one more time for me? What they called it again? What was it?
So on the front, it's one of the finest music documentaries in recent memory, a resounding success, Time Out. And on the back, inspiring, made me glad cinema had been invented.
What kind of cinema?
No, it
Just
made that person glad that cinema had been invented.
just the medium of
Okay.
film. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Um,
Well, hey, there we go. How about
I
that?
mean, that encompasses an awful lot of incredibly great and powerful cinema. So to even be in the sentence that they're talking about, this relatively small bit of cinema really spotlights how dynamic and important cinema is. It can be silly, it can be inventive, it can be courageous, it can be life-changing, and that's a heck of a statement.
Yeah, and definitely. Yeah, Tony, go ahead, Davey.
Well, I was going to say, and we know ourselves from being I've only got a small YouTube channel that's only just hit 100 subscribers. You guys are obviously from radio and podcasts reach a much wider audience, but in the grand scheme, when you're talking about, say, empires like Disney and things, we're all minor league. But it comes from the heart, so it's priceless, really, isn't it? You can't you can't put a price on authenticity. I don't think, and that's probably why this kind of stuff resonates in a way that maybe other albums don't. It's not just the message. There's an almost indescribable feel that the belief behind it pushes the music into your very being, or conversely, against you if you don't believe in the message.
It reminds me of the reality that this group of four people together have had an incredibly small volume of work put out in the world, and yet the intense passion and love of their audience over these many years with very few works is really, I think, almost unparalleled. People have a great love for these men because of who they were individually and who they were together. And the smallness of the work almost is in sharp contrast to the great feelings that it evokes among all of them, including now when they can't all talk to each other in a certain way. And maybe it tickles somebody's memory to think maybe it's bigger than us fighting with each other. But there's a lot of love, there's a lot of passion, and there's a lot. Well, I guess the love and the passion is a two-way street, right? It's a four-way street, but it's also a two-way street.
Yeah, four-way street. Yeah, good points there, Tony. Yeah, so Tony, Davey, I think we'll start wrapping up here. A lot of really good stuff, and it, as we mentioned a few times here, the deja vu, the full circle, I'll say sort of starting with that Buffalo Springfield for what it's worth, on to Ohio and CSNY and the whole anti-war movement, and all the way fast forward to today. So in terms of just kind of closing out the show here, in terms of what would be really appropriate, Davey, what do you think here?
Well, unfortunately, as we've seen, Neil picked the title perfectly. If it was indeed Neil, I'd imagine it was. It tends to control these things. So it's Deja Vu Live is the album, and Deja Vu is the concert. The rockumentary is the awful term, but the documentary. So I don't see unfortunately, any more pertinent choice to go out on than, sadly, saying that it isn't just deja vu, but it's deja vu all over again.
Deja vu all over again. Well, Davey, we really appreciate you coming in today, and and Tony bringing us all together here. And so, Tony, set us up here, and we'll say have a good day, have a good night, and keep on rocking in the free world.
Well, you just said those things, so I can't say them again. But but yeah, and here we are with these gentlemen who have had great love and respect and great vehement disgust for each other from time to time. Yet here it is. It's Mr. Crosby's song that is the backbone of these things named deja vu. And yet it is something that Neil had no problem with putting up in the front. And as you, Davey, I know you've seen this band together, and I've seen them together, and certainly Thrasher, you have. And one of the things that I always get left with is looking to the left, as often the scene was Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young from left to right. And you look over at David, looking over at Neil, and there's nobody happier in the whole world than David Crosby watching Neil and Stephen play guitar. That is one of the fine things that I'll always remember, that I hope to remember way down the road. Despite difficulties and anger and frustration, these people have really left a mark on my life, all of our lives, and a lot of millions of others. So thank you all, Mrs. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I hope that even if we don't get another lick of music, because as was said, they were never the most prolific, and I don't think many were particularly enamored with American Dream or looking forward anyway. They still garner so much love, and even if we don't hear anything from them again, wouldn't we just love to hear that they've at least patched it up personally? Wouldn't that be nice? I mean, we got the press release just saying Crosby, Stills and Nash support Neil in his recent Spotify issues, which we don't need to go into, but that was a joint statement, and the first time that their names have appeared on anything together in 7-ish, 8 years, something like that. So
very true.
Yeah. So if they can at some stage just find a way to, even just get on each other's Christmas card list again, I'd be a happier fan.
True. That's a great Christmas wish. It's not too early in the year to start wishing for that. All right, we got it. That's the top of my list. Well, we'll take us out here, Mr. Thrasher, with this fine song, this fine thing called Deja Vu. And we'll see you all again out there, hopefully soon. Davey, again, thanks for coming on along and swimming all this way across the big ocean. Man, you're one heck of a swimmer. Thank you for the work.
For a while after that. But,
all right.
A pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, folks. Take a look at it. Take a look on YouTube for all of the other shows that somehow or another we've been able to manage to pull together. And thank you much once again, everyone.
Deja vu is like scary, but it's absolutely completely correct. We're right back here again, and we have got to turn this around. People have got to reclaim this government.
If I had ever been it before, I would probably know just what to do. Don't you? If I had ever been it before, another time around the wheel, I would probably know just how to deal with all of you. Like I've been here before. Like I've been here before. And it does make me wonder what's going on. I wonder the ground. Do you know
I lost so many people in Southeast Asia, I stopped crying, I stopped caring, I stopped counting. And we're doing it all over again. Same mistakes. In sobriety, we call it insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Jesus.
The only time that songwriters should react, to stuff that's going on is when they're absolutely moved to do so, when it just smacks them in the face and they gotta react. I don't think you should go out and look for, causes in order to have a cause, or because it's hip this week. And I think the only time that it's legitimate is when an event goes down like at Kent State, where we were at odds in this country at that moment. There's no question.
We have to say, hey, listen, maybe the government are telling you one story, but listen to the story from my point of view. And that's what we're trying to do, open up dialogue, stimulate people to think differently about things. Because the government would like you to think everything's fine all the time, but it ain't fine all the time.
We were affected by what was going on, and we wrote those songs. And people reacted to the songs, and that affected us, and we were just there. We were a part of the whole thing. I still think that music is about feelings, and whatever you feel, if it happens to be political, that's okay, but I don't think music should be totally designed to be a political thing.
We've lived in the shadow of this aberration for 28 years and played politics with this part of the world for 40 years, and that's enough. And if we can, with the small gift of a little song, participate in this triumph of the human spirit.
Well, you're in the Midwest, so we're on the borderline here. I think you'll have some very negative reaction to the political message tonight, and you'll have a lot of people thoroughly embrace it.
Thank you, everybody.